From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. A Halloween attraction with a historic twist is on display at the Center for Colorado Women's History in Denver. The exhibit is called Victorian Death Experiences. Visitors see rooms decorated for mourners. They hear stories about death in the Old West. They see fascinating artifacts like hair jewelry made partly from the hair of a deceased loved one, as well as moving portraits of people who had recently died.
We really are not focused on having a haunted house vibe, but rather experiencing some reverence around our understanding for death.
That's Cat Jensen, the education coordinator for the Center for Colorado Women's History. This is Cat's third year curating this spooky October experience. Today, we're listening back to our conversation from last year. Cat says, above all, the exhibit looks at the central role women have traditionally played when a loved one dies.
Death for Victorian women was a deep and sacred act. Women, regardless of race or class, have long been the arbiters of life and death. And historically, women have done this work within the comfort of their own homes, surrounded by female friends and family. Women are preparing bodies for death. They're hosting wakes and end-of-life ceremony. They're really taking on the additional social emotional labor that makes sure that everyone feels safe and compelled to mourn in the way that they need to.
Now, Kat, this is not a typical museum exhibit where you walk through a room, you look at some historic objects or photographs. You describe this as an immersive experience. Visitors are welcome to dress in period costume, and apparently many people do. Could you talk about the vibe of this program?
Yeah, I love the vibe of this program. People do dress up. It's definitely encouraged. Those of us who are leading the program certainly really enjoy getting to dress up and be just as engaged with our visitors as they are with us. Guests are asked if they would like to help participate by reading Victorian superstitions around death throughout our time together. We also view, of course, belongings from our collection, and there's also a wake room. So if anyone comes to this experience feeling really compelled to leave an offering for a loved one or presenting something to honor a loved one, they're welcome to do that. So last year, this experience really set itself apart from what I would say are other spooky season offerings as something that investigates ways in which people have historically made sense of transition from life to death. We are really fortunate to have access to all of History Colorado's incredible collections. And when we searched the collection and realized, oh my gosh, we have mourning wear and we have hair jewelry, it just felt like a perfect opportunity to bring some of that to light.
Yeah, I'm so curious to know more about mourning wear and hair jewelry. Can you talk a little bit about those pieces?
Sure. There are a lot of traditions and customs surrounding death in the Victorian era. Victorians really encourage people to be close to dying, to allow for spiritual reconciliation. Something like making hair jewelry becomes a way to keep close family mementos in an era where photography is still relatively new and rare. And oftentimes, the death of a loved one might be the only opportunity a family or a community had to capture a photograph. And if they couldn't, sometimes the weaving of hair into jewelry became a way to honor that relative further.
And you mentioned death photography, and that just reminds me how, I guess, fortunate we are to be so connected in our modern world, to have our phones filled with candid photos of all of the people that we love, but that was not the case back then.
Correct. Yeah. Photography really was not as easily accessible to everyone. It also was a really long process. It took a long time to get a photograph taken. And so for folks to be able to have this experience, it was sort of a really big affair. You would want to be dressed in your best clothes. If you were poor working class, you'd have to secure time off for your family.
Wow.
The act of being able to have a photograph of a loved one, especially, say, a young one or a child, might be your only opportunity to capture them.
Well, just briefly, as someone whose work has you fully immersed in history, you must have a favorite artifact from the past. What is one historic object that, if you could, you'd take home from work with you? Not saying that will happen.
I hope no curator is listening. But if you are, I would absolutely not wink, wink, take home a beautiful hair bracelet that we have in the exhibit. It's really delicate. It is made of human hair, and it has a photo of a deceased loved one. I think it's really cool and quite striking looking. But again, it also is this just really spectacular way, I think, to honor family or friendship. It would also be easiest. I'm not exactly. I couldn't leave, with a wedding dress.
Right. Look, if this hair bracelet goes missing, I will vouch it was a ghost. 100%. Cat Jensen is Education Coordinator for the Center for Colorado Women's History. Cat spoke with me last October about the Victorian Death Experiences program, which they're presenting again this year through the end of October. We'll have more details in our show notes and at KUNC.org. Hey, if you have a minute and you like this show, I have a favor to ask. Would you take a moment and leave a review on Apple Podcasts? It helps other people find the show and hear why they might like it too. It also gives the team here at KUNC News some insights about how the show is resonating with our audience. If you don't use Apple Podcasts or you don't feel like writing a review, you can always rate the show instead. And be sure to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. We really appreciate your support. And if you're listening to us on the radio, we love hearing from our listeners by email as well. You can get in touch at noco@kunc.org. Share your thoughts on an episode or ideas for future episodes. Again, that email is noco@kunc.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.